Evening, everyone. This is your host, Craig Palmer, for the good, the bad, the odd of online dating podcast. So, tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different websites that are out there. One of the things that is difficult for people who are going into, dating for the first time. And the reason why I'm going to cover this tonight is because this is 2026, and there are a lot of people who are still on the fence about, should I or shouldn't I consider online dating. And I'm a big advocate for online dating. Now, the funny thing about it is, and first, let me thank everyone watching on TikTok. Let me thank everybody watching on Facebook. Let me thank everybody watching on YouTube, right? So, I'm the author of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating book. Here's my book, right? And so, for those of you on TikTok, if you're interested in getting the book, you can just go to, I guess, what on my page or whatever. You'll see it is available on lulu.com, right? But anyway, for those folks who are still on the fence about online dating and going to dating apps, because I think sometimes people get, there's a misconception, right? And because you hear horror stories, and people sometimes tend to, hang their hat on the horror stories, but there are a lot of good things that come from online dating. Like there are a lot of success stories, and in the upcoming shows, I'm going to have some of these folks who have had success stories come and discuss their success stories because I know quite a few success stories, and I had a couple of people reach out to me and mention some of the success stories. And I'm like, you know what? You should tell people about your success stories and how things came about, right? Because there are, don't like I said, there are horror stories. Don't get me wrong, right? And in the book, I talk about safety and some things to consider when you're considering online dating, right? But nevertheless, I'm a big advocate for online dating because I think that it is honestly the way to go now, for a variety of different reasons, right? The first reason is that, as we all know, COVID changed a lot, right? COVID changed a lot because how we used to go out and meet people and things like that, those days is long gone, right? Like you're not, a lot of times you're not, when you go out, you're careful about who you approach and how close they are because there are things out there besides COVID, tuberculosis and all these type of things that people can get when people are right up on you. So, people I think are a little bit more cautious about how they approach folks and whether if they want someone up in their face. So online dating is really the kind of like the way to go, especially now because, and I'm gonna say more so for older folks. Like if you're 40 years old and above, online dating really should probably be the best way for you to go. Now, if you're between, I'm going to say 21 and 39, you still probably interested in going to a bar, to a club, spring break, the Essence Music Festival, you know what I mean? Like things like that where you can meet people organically. But if you are, like I said, above 40, I know for me being, in my 50s, I'm not going to no bar to meet a woman. I'm not going, those days is long gone. I did my partying in my 20s and 30s. So once you're above 40, to me, you still want to meet someone because everybody needs companionship, but the way we go about it is going to be a little different, right? So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the dating web apps and websites that are out there, some that I've found to be pretty successful for me, some that I think that have been successful. Some other folks, like tonight, I was talking to a young lady, and she was mentioning how she likes Bumble, right? And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I like Bumble. And the reason why I like Bumble is because Bumble makes the woman essentially make the first move. And for guys that who are a little unsure themselves or are really not sure if the woman is interested, it forces the woman to. And just a reminder for those folks watching on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, please like, subscribe, follow. Every Wednesday at 9 p.m., we will be here live, right? So by all means, like, subscribe, and all of that kind of stuff, yada yada yada. Right. So let me just talk about a little bit, and these are, and I've, I should let you know, I have a profile on probably, I'm gonna say probably about 10 different dating apps, and because I wanted to see which dating apps were better suited for a single guy, right? And I have some friends, a handful of friends that are single as well. And, they gave me some insight as to what they found to be useful and successful for them. And then, of course, women that I've spoken to online have told me about their horror stories about, some of the things that have transpired with, some of the dating sites that they have joined, right? Because I think there's also this misconception that if you go to a dating site that you pay for, right? I think women tend to think that you're going to be more successful, right? I'm going to have to disagree with that. And the reason why I'm going to disagree with it is because what happens is, and this is real talk, the same people that are on the dating sites that you pay for are the same people that are on the sites that are free, right? And that's real talk. That's true, right? Like, because I said I have a profile on many of the sites. When I browse through the sites, I see the same people, right? Like there was this young lady. I'm not going to mention her name, um, because she might be watching and she may not want me to put her out there, but I could tell that she was looking for love. Like I have to give her, like she was looking for love because she was on like 5 different dating sites, right? And I used to chuckle because I'm like, man, she is looking for love. Like she was on Bumble, she was on Tinder, she was on Facebook dating, right? She was on Match, and I would come across her, and it's so funny because what you have to understand is if you live in a particular city, right? What's going to happen is, and especially for me, like I always try to, like I'd rather meet someone locally, right? And so what was happening is every site that I would go to, I would put certain parameters, like I would want to meet someone kind of within 100 miles of where I live at, right? And her face would pop up every single time, right? And even though I wasn't necessarily attracted to her, I just thought that she seemed like the nicest person. So I reached out to her. And, quiet as it's kept, we became friends, right? Nothing romantically, but she's really, really, really cool, right? And, she's still looking for love or what have you. Very successful, woman, right? And so, but in her case, which is, some of the things that I think for me probably has too many kids. I think she has like 3 kids, right? And, and that can be challenging sometimes for guys, at least for me. I probably cap it at 2. If I'm, going to date someone, I think I really don't want them to have more than 2 kids. There are guys out there who don't care. Because I see guys, this one guy, he got with this girl who had 7 kids, right? And I'm like, what? 7 kids? I'm like really in shock, right? Because I'm sorry. You got 7 kids. I'm running in the other direction, right? But once again, there are guys out there who don't care. So, and there's someone for everyone, right? So for me, some of the dating sites that I think I like. I must admit, I liked Facebook dating. And one of the reasons why I like Facebook dating, and I mentioned this in the book, is that one, they really like you. First of all, you have to understand something. Everybody at this point, I mean, virtually everyone has Facebook, right? Like, you'd be hard pressed. Like, my grandmother has Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, my uncle, who is a minister, has Facebook. Like, it's hard nowadays for someone not to have Facebook. And so, because of so many people have Facebook, I think it increases the likelihood of meeting someone who's available, someone who is single, because there's so many options on Facebook, because so many people are on Facebook, right? So I highly recommend Facebook. The other thing too is, if you do decide to engage in with someone that's on Facebook, you might they can give you access to their Facebook profile, and so you can kind of see how they get down. Like, sometimes if you look at a person's Facebook profile, you'll learn about them, what they post, what they're saying, what's important to them, things like that. And then obviously Instagram is owned by Facebook, or Meta, or whatever you want to call it. And so, you get a chance to kind of see, like, you can see if the person is close to their parents, right? You can see how many kids they have, just a bunch of different things. So Facebook, because and listen, I'm going to be honest with you, because that's how I roll, right? Like, one time, this woman reached out to me, and I got a chance to see her Facebook profile, and I realized that I wasn't attracted to her. And Facebook, and I don't know if women realize this, but when you're out there, trying to, meet guys and stuff like that on Facebook, dating, or, or what have you, if they see your Instagram or they see your Facebook profile, they're going to kind of see you in your natural state, right? Because how a person, like, keep in mind, if you're going to a dating site, right, and you're trying to meet someone, stands to reason that you're going to probably put your best pictures on on your profile on Facebook dating, right? Makes sense, right? But if someone goes to your Facebook page, they're going to see you when you're not at your best. They're going to see you when you're at the family barbecue. They're going to see you when you're in the car. They're going to see you when you're at home cooking, right? Like, they get a better sense of who you are, right? And so you have to be mindful of that. Right? So if you give them access to your Instagram, if you give them access to your Facebook page, they're going to see you in your natural state. And it might not be you at your very best. So you have to keep that in mind. So like I said, I'm a big advocate of Facebook personally. Um, Now, the other reason why I kind of like dating apps, and I was telling someone this earlier, is because it realistically allows you to really be able to vet the person. Because you have to understand something. When you meet someone out in public, you know nothing about them. Like, if I meet a woman in Walmart or Costco's or something like that, I don't know if she's a smoker. I don't know if she has, 3 kids. I don't know if she's a college graduate. I don't know anything about her. With dating apps, at least the person has a profile, right? And you can go to their profile and see, you know, in a lot of instances, you can find out, it'll tell you what the person does for a living. It'll tell you, what their interests are, what their likes are. Like, in my profile, I think I have in my profile, just off the top of my head, it says something to the effect of, I'll know if you are a good match for me if you like Seinfeld, if you like to play spades, if you like The Wire, if you like to travel, things like that. I know someone who loves a good movie. If you love a good movie, you and I are probably a good match because I love watching movies, right? I like to analyze movies, I like to pick them apart. And if you like to have discussions about movies, you're going to be a good match for me, right? If you like real estate, you like business, you're going to be a good match for me, right? If you like to travel, you're going to probably be a good match for me, right? So that's what online dating, that's what these dating apps allow you to do. It allows you to kind of see if the person has some commonalities, have some things in common, obviously, right? So, very, very important. Just a reminder, please like, subscribe, follow. For those of you on TikTok, please follow. And don't forget to pick up, you can go to my page and pick up the good, the bad, and the odd online dating book, right? Um, and those of you on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, right? So, anyway, so that's just one. And I know my co host was mentioning a while ago how eHarmony is still looked at as the number one dating app, right? And you know what? I can see because there's only a handful of dating apps that actually do commercials, right? So I know Match.com does commercials, eHarmony does commercials. I think I've seen a commercial for Silver Singles. Um, so there's like a handful of dating apps that do commercials. So obviously those are gonna probably have more popularity. And in fact, I know a friend of mine who, well, I'm not even going to call her a friend, but I have an associate that actually used eHarmony, and she didn't find it to be very successful. And the reason why she said she didn't find it to be successful is because eHarmony, you know, um, um, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, the reason why eHarmony is not necessarily people are not successful sometimes in eHarmony, and this is just my perspective, which is also I mentioned in the book, is that eHarmony takes out appearance, right? Now, if you're at a stage in your life where looks don't matter, right? If you're at a stage in your life where you're looking to settle down with someone and you really don't care if you're physically attracted to them, then eHarmony probably would be a good place to go, right? Because eHarmony takes out that element, right? Like they're matching you on certain characteristics, certain likes, things that you're compatible with, right? And so, they match you up with someone and you ain't really factoring in how the person looks, right? So, like for instance, I was looking at HGTV recently, right? And there was this couple on there that had met online. Now, they didn't say which dating app that they met on, but I'm going to say that the guy probably wasn't the most handsomest dude in the world, right? He was a professor, and the sister, she was okay, a little on the heavy side, right? But good, seemed like I had a nice personality and what have you. And they had been married a year, and they seemed, happy as pie, right? Now, maybe she wasn't really looking for someone who she's gonna be blown away with, appearance. You know what I mean? Like maybe she wanted someone who she just really vibed with. And so there are instances where you get to a point, like for me, I don't use looks as the complete barometer in selecting someone, right? I kind of, to me, number one is communication. Like the person has, we have to communicate on a high level, right? Because if you don't communicate well, all the other things will fade, right? But you still have to be able to communicate well. Like when we go away, like, can we have communication? Can we talk about things? Like, can we talk about the Eiffel Tower? Can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? Right? So communication for me is number one, right? But there are some guys out there that look at appearance as number one, right? Like me personally, I'm not swayed by a big butt and a smile, right? Don't get me wrong, it's nice to look at a big butt and a smile, but it can't be the number one thing, right? Because if you look at appearance as the number one thing, looks fade over time, and you can't really build um, on something with just appearance. At least that's just my opinion. I don't think so, right? So, but that's just me. So anyway, some of the other dating sites, right? Um, they have a website called Date My Age, right? Which is for people that are over 50, right? Because I do think that the older you get, the more challenging it is. And listen, regardless of what your age is, we all need companionship. I don't care if you 50, 60, 70, 80, right? Like we all need companionship. We need someone to kind of cuddle up with at night and talk to and kiss and all that other kind of stuff, right? So, Date My Age for people over 50, uh, try it. Maybe it works for you. eHarmony, if appearances isn't the most important thing to you, like maybe you're at a stage in your life where, because listen, I have a relative who was dating guys for years, right? And she was dating, she would try to get the most handsomest dude and this and that. And what she found was that she really couldn't meet anyone who was cerebral, right? Like she wasn't really meeting guys. Like I'll give you an example. I'm a little bit of a nerd, right? So um if I met someone, I want someone who I can watch Jeopardy with. Now I know that's a nerd, right? Because I love Jeopardy, but I want someone who I can watch Jeopardy with who's gonna be the same way, who likes to learn, who likes to stretch their minds, who likes who are cerebral, right? And there's some women out there, they like, oh, I can't stand Jeopardy, right? And I'm thinking, well, why? Why? Because even Jeopardy has some interesting facts and things to me. I like it because it kind of keeps your mind sharp and stuff like that. And so, but there are women out there who prefer Wheel of Fortune, right? I'm not a big, I watch Wheel of Fortune, but I ain't the biggest Wheel of Fortune fan because I don't really think you learn anything by watching Wheel of Fortune, right? But whatever. So, so you want to kind of get someone who you're compatible with, right? So now, we have they have something called elite singles, right? Which is also for people over 50, right? You have Our Time for people over 50. You have Senior Match, right? Which is for people over 50, right? Christian Mingles for people over 50. Zeus, Zeus for people over 50. So, I mean, and I say that only because mm, over 50, right? And so, um, because I think young people probably don't have the same challenges meeting people, right? Because you can meet people at school. If you're in college, college is a great place to meet people. So if you're in your 20s, early 30s, maybe you're in college, or maybe going back to school, so you can meet people at school, right? If you're in your 20s and 30s, you're still probably going to bars and sports bars and things like that. And so you still can meet people. The people who are in their late 40s and 50s who are probably not going to places like that probably would benefit from. actually going to a dating app, right? So, and then they, of course, like I mentioned earlier, they have Bumble, they have Singles 50. In fact, did you know that there's literally 1,200 dating apps out there? And I was shocked. I really, really was shocked. Hey, honey. All right. So I was really um, shocked. You want to come on the show with me? All right. So I can send you an invite so you can come on in. You want to come on in? All right. So I'm shocked at how many um, dating apps. Stop being a chicken. Right. So I'm really shocked at how many dating apps that are out there because, but you got to also remember, right? Like, we don't own the rights to dating apps. Like, there are Asian dating apps. I'm sure there's Mexican dating apps, right? Like, I'm sure there's Russian dating apps, right? Like, I mean, like, in fact, what's so funny is, right? And if you go on TikTok, right, there are a lot of these TikTok folks that are like doing like matchmaking right on TikTok, right? And I must admit, I find it to be very comical. Like, I'll like listen to some of them. I still wonder if any of them really work. To be honest with you, right? Because I'm watching some of these dating matchmaking dating things on TikTok, right? And it's always these guys that pop in from like Africa, right? And they're like, I'm from Zimbabwe. And I'm like, all the women on the TikTok thing, they're in the US, right? And these guys are like in Zimbabwe and South Africa and all this other kind of stuff, right? And it's so funny because there's this guy, he's a Pan African, psychologist. His name is Umar Johnson, right? And he's always saying, the sisters, if you want to meet someone, go to Africa. Because I'm sure there's a ton of guys in Africa. Now, let's keep in mind, these dudes probably want to get here to the US in the worst way. So they want to get with a sister, to, and listen, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of attractive sisters out there, but is that the main reason why they want to get with a sister? Right? Because they're trying to get that green card, right, to get to the US. All right. So there's this show on television. It's called I think it's called 90 Day Fiance, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And I'm always watching like these shows, right? And it amazes me how people will go to other countries to find love, right? Like, there's this guy, I don't remember his name on the show, but he went to the Philippines, right? Like, he couldn't find nobody here in the US. And he was like, shoot, forget that. He went to the Philippines to meet some girl, right? Keep in mind now, the Philippines, and I've never been to the Philippines, so I'm basing this only on what I've seen, right? But the Philippines, a lot of it, I'm going to go on the assumption that a lot of it is poor from what I saw on television, right? It seemed very poor, right? And so the women in the Philippines, trust me when I tell you, they want to make it here in the worst way, right? Because say what you want about the US, the US is the land of milk and honey, right? And you get here to the US, there is a ton of ways to make money, right? And listen, I know it's hard in the US, but to me, I almost kind of feel like there has to be people here that you can meet locally and maybe not. Okay, so let's look at it from a different perspective. You mean to tell me now the Philippines is 1,000 miles away? You could easily meet somebody in Chicago or Texas, California. New Jersey, right? Like, why do you have to go to another country to meet someone, right? Like, you mean to tell me there aren't enough people here in this country to meet, right? So that's just a thought. But anyway, so anyway, there's like there's Hinge, right? Hinge is another um, dating app. One of my, and I must admit, I like Hinge um, because Hinge has this thing, right, where you can see when the last time the person was online, right? You can also kind of see if the person is online currently. And if you send that person a request and they're currently online, they'll kind of reach out to you right away. Like some of the other apps, you don't know if the person is on right away. I'm a big advocate of Hinge, right? I would highly recommend Hinge. I would recommend Facebook dating, right? Now, let me mention, and I was just talking to a friend of mine, right, about Kendra G, right? Now, Kendra G is a dating app, and I have to give it to Kendra G, right, because she's getting paid, right? Like, my hope and goal is to start a dating app at some point down the road, right? The good, the bad, and the odd online dating app, right? So trust me when I tell you, be on the lookout for that dating app, right? So I'm watching Kendra G on Facebook, and I must admit, like when you go on to dating apps, the sisters are out there doing their thing. There's a lot of attractive sisters who are progressive, who have really got their shit together, right? And then you go to Kendra G, and she's interviewing these women on there. And I mean, I have to say, man, and I only catch, like, I don't catch the entire show per se. I'm probably catching maybe the first 10 to 15 minutes of it. But man, most of the sisters that come on there, they be giving sisters a bad name. I'm sorry. Like going on this show with head wraps, right? Going on this show unprepared, right? Going on the show with unrealistic expectations, right? Like I'm just, and you can kind of see it. What's so funny is, I'm watching Kendra's reactions, her facial expressions, and she ain't really hiding her facial expressions. Like she has that look like, what? Like shock. Like she has the same facial expressions I have, right? Because I'm like, you're coming on live, right? And people are seeing you. Hey, Maria, what's going on? Right? And hi, Israel, what's going on? Right? So I'm like, how? Like, do you not know you're online? Hola, right? So I'm like, man. And then even the brothers, right? Because Kendra G, the brothers come on too now. She has like this guy, this new guy who's like a host and stuff like that. And he seems pretty cool. I really don't watch the guy ones, to be honest with you. But just um, on the surface, when the guy comes on, because I usually click off. But the brothers, they don't even come with a haircut on. Like they come, at least the two that I think I've seen, they come any old way, right? I'm like, man, like if I'm trying to meet someone, you would think that you would put your best foot forward. But oh well. So so anyway, there's Senior Sizzles, and there's another one that's still out there, and I must admit, I'm shocked that this is still out there because I used to wait. This is before I was married. I actually used to use Black People Meet, and I ain't gonna lie, Black People Meet. I met a couple of people on Black People Meet, right? And Senior Sizzles, yes, that's what it's called, Senior Sizzles, Sizzle, Senior Sizzles, right? Now there was this young lady I met on Black People Meet, and I'll admit, we hit it off. We went out, we had a great time. She was attractive, she was smart, She had her shit together. Like, I was thinking to myself, I hit the jackpot, right? And to this day, we're still very cool, right? Unfortunately, she couldn't have kids, and that's why that ended, right? Because at the time, I didn't have kids, I wasn't married, and I was looking to settle down and, have kids. And by the grace of God, I got married, had two sons, and really hit it, So, but nevertheless, she was like a great catch. And I think she met her husband online, if I'm not mistaken. I should ask her, but I'm pretty certain she met her husband online, and they're still together to this day. And I think they've probably celebrated like 15 years of marriage at this point, right? So you can meet somebody online. Like there are plenty of, like I said, success stories. So I know sometimes it's challenging, but stay strong because there are people out there, right? There's Flirty Mature. There's OK Cupid. Another one that I find that's pretty good. I would highly recommend it as well. Is Plenty of Fish. I know some people don't like Plenty of Fish, but I've spoken to a couple of people on Plenty of Fish, and I found it to be pretty good. Um, Now, one app that some people kind of like, some people like, some people don't like, which is Tinder, right? So now Tinder I find to be very interesting, right? Because Tinder to me is like if you're from New York, right? Like I am, I'm from New York. So in New York, you have New York and then you have the village, right? So if you've ever been to New York, Tinder is like the village of online dating apps, right? Because in New York, anything goes on in the village, right? You have people, just wilding out in the on Tinder. So there, now, yeah, Tinder. I think they're. I don't want to call it necessarily a hookup dating app per se, but the women on Tinder are very much more direct. Like, I mean, you have women on Tinder that be like, "Yo, you want to get together? Yes or no?" Like, they're not like some of them are not looking for relationships. They're just looking for someone to kind of hang out. Like, I'll give you an example, a true story, right? I met a woman on Tinder and she was living a polyamorous lifestyle. She was living with her husband and two women, no, with another woman. So it was the three of them, right? And she reached out to me and she was like, I'm looking for someone to kind of hang out with because, you know, I live with my husband and his girlfriend, and I want someone that I can hang out with a couple of days a week when my husband is with his girlfriend. And I'm like, what? And I thought for a moment, that might be interesting because that way, you don't deal with someone who's going to get all emotional and things like that. But I recognized that's not what I really wanted. So I said, I had to tell her no. But nevertheless, there are people on Tinder who are like that are just looking for someone to kind of hang out with, right? They're not looking for no relationship. They're not looking for anything messy, right? They're just looking for someone to kind of hang out with. And, because one of the reasons why I wrote the book is about some of the terms that you see online. Like you'll see on Tinder a lot of non-monogamous, relationships, right? Where people say, I'm looking for something non-monogamous, someone I can just hang out with and date and stuff like that. So if you're looking for something like that, you can find that on Tinder for certain. And in fact, my co-host said, and I find Ashley Madison is kind of designed for the hookup, right? Um, and I'm sure there's more, right? And don't be shocked because there are celebrities who, like, I saw an interview with Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck was on a dating app, right? After he broke up with J Lo, he was on a dating app trying to find a date, right? So I'm like, what? Like, okay. So you would think, listen, celebrities are just like us. They're human. You know what I mean? So don't think for a moment they're not. I'm sure there are probably celebrity dating apps out there, right? So there's OkCupid, there's Mingle Too, there's Badoo, Zendate, Happen, Grinder. I mean, there's like dating apps for gay and lesbian folks, right? We talked about Match, Pure. There's something called Black for like black singles, right? There's German apps. I mean, you name it. Some of the hookup dating apps that are listed are, um, there's something called a Wanna Hookup. Very straightforward, right? Right. Ashley Madison. There's Adult Friend Finder, right? There's Mature Dates. And I love this one, Fling.com, right? So there's probably a dating app for everything out there. Like they have a dating app for single parents, right? Because, and I've heard this mentioned, like I've heard women say it's difficult to find a guy who understands what it is to be a single parent, right? So I'm a single parent, so I understand what being a single parent is like, right? Because, the thing about being a single parent is if you're out there dating, the person that you're dating has to understand as a single parent, you're going to have responsibilities to your kids, right? And you want to somehow kind of incorporate them into what you have going on with your kids. Now, at some point, if the relationship evolves and things like that, you're going on vacations with the trips, with the kids, you're going on to the movies with the kids and all that kind of stuff, right? But that might take some time sometimes. So initially, you might be at the mercy of, like a soccer mom, right? You're taking your kid to basketball, you're taking them to soccer practice, you're taking them to football practice, you're taking them to band, right? Your daughter, she has ballet. Your daughter, she has cheerleading, right? And guys have to understand that if a guy is dating a woman with kids, you're going to have to be understanding that sometimes she's not going to be able to give you the attention you might desire or need, right? And vice versa. If you're dating a guy who has kids, and I don't think this happens as often, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? But usually the women tend to be the more custodial parents, right? Like most kids, I'm gonna say, and I don't know any statistics to this. I'm just guessing off the top of my head from based upon what I've seen. That more times than not, the woman is the custodial parent, so she has the kids, and if she has one, two, three, four kids or whatever the case is, they live with the mother. She has to find a way to kind of incorporate that with her dating life. Because even though she might be a single parent, she still has desires, she still has needs, she still has wants. And like I said, we all need companionship. So, whether you're a single mother or not, somehow you have to kind of figure out how to incorporate that. Now, hopefully, you have kids that are in their teens or older, right? Like older women, if you're like 45, between 45 and 55, in all likelihood, your kids are around 20 maybe or older. Like they're between 18 and 25, right? So, you don't have those same kind of restrictions. You can kind of go out there and do your thing, right? But, and this is why I don't date anyone under 40, right? Because most women under 40, if they have kids, their kids are gonna still probably be 12, 9, right? Like you see a lot of women, they'll be like, my kid is 3, right? Like I met this one woman online, her daughter was 5, right? And gorgeous woman, very smart, but she didn't have any support. She had no childcare, right? And so it made it difficult to really kind of date her, right? Another woman, kid is 2, right? 2 years old. I mean, yeah, and even Kendra G. When people go on Kendra G and the kid and the woman says, "Oh my daughter's 2," she's like, "Well, why the hell you ain't with the 2 year old? You know, with the 2 year old's father, right?" And then the person will say, "Well, things happen, this and that." Like, if you're gonna have a kid with someone, I'm sorry, you should really be sure this is someone that you want to be with. And I get that things change, right? I get things happen, right? You know, let's just say the person, for whatever reason, let's say they become incarcerated or they pass away or something like that. Those things happen. Okay, wonderful. But you get with a guy and you you don't anticipate that things can go wrong. Now you got a 2 year old and he's out doing this thing, he's off to the wind, out, and it's like a 2 year old is very difficult to I can just tell you the average guy is not going to want to deal with someone who has a 2 year old, probably, right? Because a 2 year old requires childcare, right? It requires you still, late night feedings, this, that, like you have to do everything for a 2 year old. Once your kids get to a certain age, like I said, 12, 13, 14, 15, things like that, like they're pretty much independent. You can go to the movies and leave a 13-year-old at home by themselves. You can't leave a 2 year old, a 3 year old home by themselves. No, you can't do it, right? So, it's like it just becomes more challenging. So, if you're going to have kids, right, you have to ask yourself, is this person someone that I'm going to be with, right? Can you realistically see yourself with them before you decide to have kids with them, right? And like I said, I get things happen. So make no mistake about it, right? I totally get that. But nevertheless, you have to really kind of think about the long term ramifications of being with someone or having a kid with someone and then you're not with them. Because being a single parent is incredibly difficult. It is a challenge. And if you have, like, I'm not going to say no names because I have a friend, he had 2 kids with this woman, right? And she had 4 kids when he had 2 kids with her. So now she has 6 kids, right? And he's not with her, and she's finding it difficult to get childcare and things like that, right? Because she has 6 kids and they're young. You know what I mean? Like, I think her youngest is like, at this point, maybe 6, 5 or 6, right? And I'm like, man, like, you have 4 kids. Uh, I'm sorry. If you're going to have another kid with someone, I think you should be married to that person. Make certain that that person, and listen, we know marriage is not the end all be all sometimes, but nevertheless, if you're going to have a kid with someone, a fifth kid with someone, I think you should really be married to that person because you see already that you had 4 kids with someone and you're not with them. Are you going to take that same chance again to have a kid with someone and not be with them? I just don't get that, but whatever. Right. So, what are some of the other dating? There's the League, right? Now, I don't know too much about the League. Let's see. Exclusive app with selective filters, including race, position as high success, but elitist, right? So, because this is when I checked out a couple of these sites, I haven't really been on in a minute, right? So, um, the League. You know, I would suggest try it out. Don't be unhappy. Don't be alone. Like there's some people who have given up on love. They've given up on being with someone. I would say don't give up, right? There are people out there looking for love, right? There are people out there who are a match for you, right? I would suggest, doing your profile effectively. Like I could tell you, like there's some women who do a profile, and just to let me just dispel this real quick, because a lot of women are put in their profile, you guys don't read this anyway. That's incorrect. Every woman that I've ever kind of spoken to, I've always read their profiles thoroughly, right? So a guy who's looking for something long term, something serious, is looking at the profile to see what you're about. Do not go on the assumption that guys don't read profiles. That's incorrect. We do read profiles. So I would suggest really put in your profile what you're looking for. And I wouldn't put a lot of deal breakers in profiles, right? Because I think people can kind of misconstrue what's in a profile if you put a lot of deal breakers in there, right? So, once again, if you're interested, pick up the book, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book. It's available on lulu.com. If you go to it, you'll see it. Feel free to pick it up, right? Or you can cash at me, Craig Palmer. If you cash at me, just put in your address and I will mail it to you, right? Um, and in fact, I have to mail out a few tomorrow. So if you haven't received your book, for those of you who did reach out and purchase, and it's 17.95. For those of you who reached out and requested, I did get your books. I'm mailing them tomorrow, so you should get them in a couple of days, right? Um, so once again, and let me just say, like, because there's so many dating apps right now, everyone should be able to find someone, right? Like for instance, there's an app, right? It's called Shadi, right? Shaadi, and this is for people that want to get married. And you know how many times I look online and people saying they're dating with intention, and they're dating to meet someone and all this other kind of stuff. Like then you should be going on an app like Shadid, right? Because that's for folks who are looking to get married, right? There's another one called um, Ch- Chipa, right, which is a dating app for Latinos, right? So there are a ton of dating apps out there. So I would tell you, research them. Um, don't, and I'm not a big fan, and I don't have a problem telling you this. I personally don't believe in paying for a dating app, right? And listen, there are dating apps out there that maybe like Match. People think that you're gonna find someone better on Match. I don't agree, because the same people on Match are the same people on Facebook dating. They're the same people on Hinge. They're the same people on Bumble. They're the same people on Tinder, and those are some of the ones that you don't have to pay. So why pay for Match when there's no need to? Because the same people that are on Match are on the other dating apps. So, but just as a reminder, please like, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, you can watch us on YouTube every Wednesday at 9 p.m. live, and that allows you to make comments. If you're watching from YouTube, you can go to the Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Podcast on YouTube, and you can actually come in on YouTube and make comments. So please go to YouTube, like, subscribe, so that way you can watch, and if that way you can also catch. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you're not around on a Wednesday night at 9, and you want to catch the show at a later time. Usually 24 hours later, the show is on there that we did last week, so or the day before, so you can watch the show, and you're going to get some tips on the show. And if you have any questions about relationships, about what have you, or anything that was discussed on the show, feel free to email me at Craig Palmer 25 at gmail.com. Because I do get people that email me that have questions that they don't want to necessarily mention on the show. And then I'll mention it, the following week. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, you're wondering about something or something we discussed on the show that you didn't want to necessarily mention, feel free, to shoot me a little email, or maybe there's a topic that you want to discuss that we haven't discussed yet, and we might have probably get to the topic, but you might want to hear about it right away. So, send me an email. Send me an email to craigpalmer25 at gmail.com. And, plenty of times we've mentioned topics that viewers have emailed, right? And if you want to be on as a guest, by all means, email me at craigpalmer25 at gmail.com. I will send you a link so you can actually come on the show and be live with me, right? So I have some guests that are going to be coming up um, in the near future because there's some women that had some dating experiences, and I want them to be able to share some of their dating experiences. So they're going to be coming on the show in upcoming weeks. And I want to extend that offer to anyone. If you want to come on the show and share your dating experience, by all means, shoot me an email at craigpalmer25 at gmail.com. And so you can come on the show and give some of your online dating experiences, because I think we learn as a community from different experiences, right? Because obviously, and listen, sometimes not every relationship, every person you meet online is destined to be a love interest, right? You should know that. Like, I'll be honest with you, there's a young lady I met online, and I'm strongly considering making her the godparent of my sons because she is such a sweetheart. And even though we're not, romantically involved in things like that, but she's such a sweetheart. You know what I mean? Um, like she would make an amazing godmother, right? So I'm just saying, like, you might meet someone who you become, super cool with, and even though it didn't evolve into a relationship per se, it evolved to an amazing friendship. So these are things that you have to consider when you go online, because not everything is destined to be a relationship. So anyway, we discussed some of the dating apps that are out there. All the dating apps that I mentioned are in my book, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book. So feel free to go to lulu.com, go to lulu.com, and and you probably type in Craig Palmer, you'll see some of my other books as well. But you'll definitely see The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book. And so so if you didn't get a list of all the dating apps and sites that we discussed tonight on the show, you could definitely pick up the book, and you'll see the dating apps in there and have a list of them. All right. And you'll see some of the things that, and we'll go over some of the other things that I discuss in the book. Like we talk about, some of the landscape of online dating, because that landscape of online dating has changed. Like we mentioned, there was a time that dating apps was a stigma. Like you didn't want to tell someone you was on a dating app, and that's no longer the case. Like people now, they have no issue with saying to someone, I met someone on a dating app, right? None whatsoever, right? So anyway, I want to thank everybody that watched this on Facebook. I want to thank everybody that was watching on YouTube. I want to thank everyone who watched this on TikTok live, right? Please follow, like, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, please like. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely subscribe so you can catch all the shows, and you can catch all of the previous shows. I'm going to be uploading some of the previous shows on the YouTube so you can kind of see them, right? Because we had some really good shows. So I want to thank everyone that was watching. My name is Craig Palmer, author of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating book. Have a pleasant and safe evening, and we will be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. All right? So stay safe and have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. Good night. And I will be seeing you next Wednesday at 9.